Hello lads and ladies, and welcome back for another video on the channel. We are back with Sky Bet League One content. Mike Dodds has been relieved of his duties with immediate effect, and Micheal Duff will replace him. This is great on Wycombe's behalf because not only do they save money on tracksuits, MD to MD, they've now got a promotion winner with Micheal Duff. I'm going to give you my reaction to the sacking of Mike Dodds and the appointment of Micheal Duff, a real quick appointment. Let's get into it. But if you haven't already, please get down there, give us a like. Let's go for 100 likes, subscribe. We're very close to 18,000 subscribers now. All the links down below to my socials, membership content, over 50 membership videos down there for you to enjoy. Go and join. Wycombe Wanderers have today sacked Mike Dodds and have had a pretty poor run of late. Now, Wycombe, when appointing Mike Dodds in February, were second in the table, and they appointed a 39-year-old to try and get them over that line. Now, in the first few games under Mike Dodds, they were actually quite hard to beat, resolute, not great to watch, but they were often getting through fine margin football. They won 7 of his first 15 games, only losing 3. Drawing 5 of whom, but since then, in the last 15 games, just 3 wins, 3 draws, and 9 defeats. They did recently beat Mansfield Town at Adams Park, but a week later, that defeat away at Peterborough was the last straw. That was Peterborough's first win of the season. Now, he did get Wycombe Wanderers eventually into the playoffs, but when you're second for the majority of the season, going into the playoffs with that momentum isn't always great. There were some good results in there. The Bolton away performance was probably the best he had under him. In the playoffs, it felt very much like they were trying not to lose rather than to win. They felt they were going in there with fear, and it felt like it was little old Wycombe again, when Wycombe have proved all season, in my eyes, that they were better than a lot of other teams. They had great players. They had quality in key areas. They were defensively sound. They had good attacking players, which when Dodds came in, the attacking quality unfortunately suffered. For me, he had one of the best strikers in the division last year in Richard Kone, and he wasn't utilised to his strengths under Mike Dodds. There was a lot of try not to lose, let's get a point, 0-0, clean sheet, negative attitude. You're playing Charlton, who are, in my opinion, last year, were the best of it in the division. That knockout football, and you can't play Charlton at their game. They will defend. They will be structured, hard to break down, and beat you on the counter-attack. And over the 2 legs, it was a pretty grim 2-leg tie. It was 1 goal that won it, a mistake by Wycombe, and Charlton eventually won the game 1-0 on aggregate. Now, Dodds was only at Wycombe for 7 months. I'm a big believer that I don't like managerial turnover. I don't like giving managers too short of time. I think they need at least 18 months to implement their ideas. Matt Bloomfield started slowly, remember, when he came in, and was maybe bought time for what his relationship was at the club after Gareth Ainsworth. As a player, he was a legend and had worked at the football club previously. But there was better signs there under Bloomfield. At the end of the previous season, just 2 years ago, there was a really good run in there from what I remember. I think they won 7 of the last 10 games. They were scoring goals. We never really saw any flicker under Mike Dodds at Wycombe Wanderers, I felt. And pre-match interviews, post-match interviews, I'll give him one thing. He was honest. He said it how it was. There were some odd things said towards the end away at Stevenage. They just lost 1-0. Played poorly, didn't have a shot on goal. No one's had a shot on goal at Stevenage this year, which says a lot. There's no plan B. And as a manager, when you're saying that, you're always going to be up against it. And I felt from the very beginning, if I'm honest, there was no real aspiration around Dodds from the support base. And he had to win them over. And I never really felt like he did that. I felt like he bought himself time, and he did enough to get away with it. And then when you start couple of bad defeats, the critics eventually come out and say what they've always really thought, but they couldn't really say when you were winning a couple of games in a row. Now, 9 wins in 31 games across all competitions. This was a side that was second and were electric. And it's very hard to take over this job. I said when he first came in, I didn't really feel like it was a right appointment. I felt he was very like this. and he wasn't a motivator to get you over that line. And I just felt they needed someone to come in and boost everyone. After a manager had gone, you gutted. Kone was rumoured to leave the football club. You needed someone to come in and boost everyone to get you over that line because you had quality. Now, in the statement, the board basically said, reluctantly taking this decision as a club that you want to take on record its gratitude for Mike and Pete for their hard work and efforts during their time with Wycombe Wanderers and wish them success for the future. Now, you'd expect nothing less from Wycombe as a football club, even with the new ownership. They're very, very classy in everything that they do. They ran very well. However, the start to the season has been poor. Bradford away, defeat, lost 2-1, played well in some parts. Stockport at home, lost that game. The Doncaster away. Now, after that, they were having the most possession, most passes, and it wasn't quite working. The Exeter game, I think, was the biggest blow. Exeter had one shot on target and won 1-0. They didn't even score with a shot on target. They scored from an own goal. Exeter came and just beat them 1-0. Wycombe had loads of shots, couldn't do anything with it. The Reading game, they huffed and they puffed, they got a point. Stevenage away was horrific. That was a dark day for them, I thought, and that was the beginning of the end. Mansfield at home, good victory, but it was like the performance was okay, but it felt very flat around Adams Park after that. A bit like, here we go again for another 5 games. And Peterborough last week, it turned. And when you're coming out with things like you're saying in your statements after games, he was always going to lose the supporters, I felt. And he did that in the end. I felt it wasn't his lack of trying. I just didn't think he was the right man for Wycombe at this moment in time. You look at it, 4th most possession in the division, 6th highest expected goals. They're up there for shots on target, shots per game. They are in the top 6, the top 10. Shots faced, mid-table, goals, they're low down. And they're getting punished in key moments. And it's not one of those where I think they're dominating games. I think what it is, because they've lost 5 games this year out of 8, all by 1 goal. So they are in games, but I feel when they go a goal down, there's not a lot of urgency to get back in the game, which I think that at times is frustrating. They are having shots, but that's because you are losing and you've got to try and find a way to get back into the game. But they're not of note, really, from my recall when I've watched Wycombe this year. It's been very flat, very timid, and 5 defeats in 8 isn't great. They started very well last year. They did overachieve for the first 30 games of last year. They lost 5 in the first 35 last year. 35 games took them to March? They've lost 5 games and we were halfway through September. And that tells you the whole difference of it. If you're realistically asking a Wycombe fan, Bradford away, you wouldn't, if you say a loss, losses will happen in football. As a supporter of that football club, you want wins. But you're thinking, let's try and get at least 3 points from your first 2. 4 points with Doncaster included. Exeter at home, you'd be thinking 3 points. That's 7. Reading at home, maybe take a point, 8 points. Stevenage away, again, a point would be deemed good, 9. Mansfield at home, you'd be looking at winning that game of football, 12. And Peterborough, yes, had a bad start, but Peterborough are better than they make. If you get 13 points from that first day, I think that's a tolerable stop. 12 points is okay. 11 points isn't bad. But you look at it, they picked up, 5 points in their first few games, which isn't good enough for Wycombe Wanderers. They've won 1, they've drawn 2, they've lost 5. And performances haven't been good enough. But they have now hired Micheal Duff, who's a promotion winner at Cheltenham. He did a solid job at Barnsley. It led them to a playoff final. Slow starters a lot of the time, but can build something. At Huddersfield, it was weird because he got off to a really quick start and then faded, then went on this 16-game unbeaten run where I think they won 10, they drew 6. I think his last victory came at Adams Park on that Tuesday night where Huddersfield beat Wycombe 2-1. And I remember that was a big game for the top 2. It was at January time, and it was a big win that. And Huddersfield after that faded. Micheal Duff's football isn't brilliant. It isn't pretty, but he'll utilise flanks. He'll get balls out wide, cross into the box. He likes a midfield to get forward and create opportunities and score goals. He played, I think he liked a 3-5-2, but predominantly he's used a 3-back wherever he's been. He can mix it up. And I do think this is a good appointment. One thing I will say, at Cheltenham, he was overachieving. At Barnsley, he was at a biggish football club, but I would say he's at not a massive football club, but a big football club for the League One level. And for expectations, it's probably a medium, just try and get in the playoffs. And he did that. He overachieved there and left after the year. At Huddersfield and Swansea, where there was expectation of a massive fan base, I don't think he quite succeeded there. At Wycombe, I think this is a perfect fit for Micheal Duff because he will get results, he will be solid, and he'll get time. And there'll be an understanding there from a fan base also coming in mid-season that they're not going to be wanting high-pressing football. They're not going to want that. They just want results and they want a team to be proud of. And they talk about northern and southern football, but they talk about, in my eyes, of expectation at a football club of Wycombe just want to win games of football. They did under Ainsworth, and that they did under Bloomfield, and they could play different ways there. Under Dodds, they tried to play a philosophy that I don't think suited their football club. But overall, I think it's a very good appointment with Duff. He worked with Huddersfield last year. He did solid for enough. I felt that if he was given till the end of the season, I think they would have ended the season well and probably got in the top 10, but I think they would have missed out on top 6 in the end. They went on that really bad run. I think they only won 1 in 10 in March, and he basically left. Wycombe are 19th now. They need to start picking up victories because the later they start charging, the sooner the season will be over. Wycombe want to achieve something. They've had a big squad turnover in the last 12 to 18 months. They're not little old Wycombe anymore. They've got to start fighting. Overall, on Dodds sacking, I think it's a fair one. One win in 8. You've not given him time, really, 7 months. But last season was pretty poor. Going into this season, you've gone into it pretty flat once again. And I don't think there was a turning corner. Sometimes with a managerial turnover, you could say Dodds has lost all games by 1 goal. You could say they've had the most shots, most possession. Wycombe are a good side, and I just think they're a bit tucked in. They're not being themselves, not expressing themselves, and need to take the shackles off. And I think Micheal Duff, I think it's a 2 or 3 year plan. This, I don't think we'll see Wycombe Wanderers flying up there straight away. If they are, then great. But I think that next 2-3 years, you'll see a more Ainsworth style of Wycombe. Legs, heart, mind, passion, giving everything for the badge. You might see a bit more of a long approach. Look, Wycombe got the most long balls in the division, although they play this possession-style football. They've still got the most long balls in the division, so they can pump it up there. I think Dodds put 11 players out there, and there was no structure at times. With Micheal Duff, the words I would cooperate with him is structure and a team morale, and I think that's what Dodds left. He's a good guy. Nice guys don't always win wars. That is my opinion on Wycombe Wanderers sacking Mike Dodds and appointing Micheal Duff. MD out, MD in. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. Please like, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one for some more League 1 and 2 content.